Transform your body. 5 simple steps. First, have a clear, specific goal. And then the 5 simple steps are proper training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. If you're not driving or working out, you might want to grab pen and piece of paper. I'm going to share with you a couple of key things, or a few key things that's going to assist you to transform your body. First, let's set clear, specific goals. So we're going to do a little goal setting exercise together. If you could wave a realistic magic wand and you could have your body, your health, your energy, any kind of way you wanted it to be, say between now and next year, this time next year, if you could have your health, your body, your energy, any kind of way you wanted it to be, what would that be like for you? Think about it. The clearer, the more specific you can be, the better. Dial it in. Be very clear, very specific. For example, I'll use myself as an example. I'm happy, and I phrase it this way intentionally. I'm happy and grateful now that I am at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat. Feeling strong and healthy like a supple leopard. Thick brown hair, 20/20 vision, perfect teeth, supple skin. Now see how I go on and say things like that? You can transform your body the same way. First, by speaking it into existence, affirm it / pray for it, and we put it in the present tense. So that's the first step. It's not even actually it's the overall. The 5 steps are proper training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. The very first thing I want you to consider doing is to set a goal. Set a clear, specific goal. So dial it in, and I encourage you to make it the more clear and the more specific you can be, the better. For example, using a body weight and a body fat percent. I find that very helpful. If you're not too familiar with body fat percents, a simple little trick to not have to get a big fancy test is to just go online, go do a Google search, and look up men and women's body fat percentages, images. You may have to hit images, and then you'll see a range from men and women, from low body fat to high body fat, and it'll list the percentage of what range body fat they're in. What I encourage you to do is find yourself on there where you're at currently. Say if you're a man, and then say you're at, for just an example, say you're 20% body fat currently, and you see that that's where you're at. Then set a goal. I don't know what your goals is, what your goal is, but just say, for example, you want to be 10% or at or below 10% body fat. That's all it is. So you say, okay, well, my goal is to weigh this much at 10% body fat. And then you're set up. Your framework is there. You have a clear, specific goal. You know exactly what it is you have to achieve. So I encourage you to dial it in. Get that clear, specific goal. That's the most important thing, I feel like, for you to get going, to transform your body, is to have a clear, specific goal. And once you have that, we're going to back it up, and I'm going to dive into it here on the 5 simple steps: training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, mindset, right? So now we have our goal. Let's look at the first thing, training. Imagine for a moment that we have a twin engine airplane and we're flying along, right? One engine is called strength training and one engine is called cardiovascular training. Now, imagine we're flying along. Now, imagine if you only had one engine going on the plane. Well, it's not a plane I would want to be on. It's not going to be very solid, right? It wouldn't get us there as good. Matter of fact, it might almost be an emergency. So, but now that's why I encourage you to have some strength training in your program and some cardiovascular training in your program. For example, whether you could work out 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. You could do cardio in the morning, strength in the afternoon. That's just one way to do it. You do you. I'm just throwing out some ideas, getting you thinking, right? But I encourage you to have both, some cardio and some strength, right? Right. Okay, now let's take a look at nutrition. Before we get on to nutrition, let's take a look at some of the principles of strength training. I want to share with you some principles, 5 principles on strength training. Proper form, variety, intensity, proper training principles, and consistency. These 5 things, if you're taking notes, these 5 things make up a good training program. So I encourage you to dial these things in while you're building out your training program. I encourage you to include, particularly on the strength training program, that you do proper form, variety, intensity, proper training principles, and consistency. So why is proper form important? Let's look at proper form. Why would proper form be so important? Well, could be so that we're exercising the muscle effectively, and then so also that we don't get hurt. Those are 2 big reasons. So we're being effective with our time and our energy, and that we're not going to get an injury. I don't want you to get hurt out there. Number 2 is proper form, variety. Now, why would we want to mix it up occasionally? Why couldn't we just do one? Why couldn't I give you a 4-week routine and you just do it for 2 years? Why would you want to change it up from time to time? Think about it. Well, you probably mentally get bored, right? I know I like switching it up, keeping mentally stay engaged. And then number 2 is our bodies get bored. Have you ever heard of a plateau? Plateaus occur, our bodies, a lot of times as we're progressing along in the fitness world, our bodies will get to a point where it doesn't want to go to the next level. It just reaches a plateau. We get kind of stuck on our strength level, our body fat level, our muscle level. Well, how do we mix it up? Well, variety, right? So changing it up, changing different rep patterns. Sometimes 5 reps even, sometimes 10, sometimes 15, sometimes 20, sometimes 30. This is all you can change it up. Tempo is another underrated way to change things up. Tempo is the speed of the movement of the exercise. Think about it in terms of 4 digits. You have, for example, let's do a chest press. We have at the top. So this is okay. Let's start 1, 2, 3, 0, perhaps 1, 2, 1. That's tempo. 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 1. Right? You could do 5 seconds on the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 1 up. 1, 2. You could do 2. So the tempo was the speed of the movement. Is another way to add variety to our workout. Right? So proper form, variety. Number 3 is intensity. What comes to mind when you think about exercising with intensity? What do you think about? Challenging yourself, right? Pushing it, taking it to the next level. For our muscles to grow, we must stimulate them. We have to challenge them, right? So strength training does that. It breaks them down, right? So let's look, for example, say we're doing curls. Say we're doing curls, right? And we're going for 12 repetitions. This is getting hard. 10, 11, 12. Oh, goodness, hard. 12. Oh, I couldn't do one more if I had to. What's the most beneficial part of that set? The first few reps or the last few reps? Well, it's going to be the last few. And why is that? Why is the last few reps the most impactful, the most beneficial? Well, if you haven't already guessed it, it's because that's where the overload occurs. That's where the challenge occurs. If I was speaking to the muscles, I'd say, okay, you better grow back more muscle to deal with this stress next time. So we're stressing it out. And just over the next day or 2 or 3 through eating and rest, that the muscle, we stimulate it in the gym, and then through rest and nutrition, it's growing back and overcompensating and growing back more muscle. That's how you build muscle. And muscle, I feel, is the best thing you can do for your health, is to build quality muscle on your physique. So when you exercise, you're breaking the muscle down. It's through the rest and recovery that the muscle overcomes and adapts and gets stronger and better, right? So we're talking about training, we're talking about proper form, variety, we're talking about intensity. Number 4th principle of training is training principles. There's a lot of different training principles. I'll just name a few: compound sets, supersets, drop sets, rest pause training, circuit training. There's a lot of principles, right? And that's one of the fun things. And I feel like the principles helps us add to variety. There's a lot of different principles. One of my favorite principles I'll share with you when working out by myself is the rest pause method. Say I want to get 12 to 15 rep range. And I'm going along, say I get to 10, 11, and I can't do any more. I'll put it down and then take 2 or 3 breaths, 4 breaths, and then do 3 or 4 more. Boom, at the end. Rest pause method, right? Just different ways to do it, right? And the last but not least principle of training, proper form, variety, intensity, proper training principles. Lastly, but not leastly, is consistency. Now, what do you feel? How is consistency important to exercise or your training? You're transforming your body over this next year and next decade. How is the importance of consistency? How is this important to you? Why is this important? Think about it. Any answers? Bueller? Anyone? Well, okay. So okay, let's think about, I'll share it with you this way. Imagine you have a twin and you're going along this goal. Let's say, okay, it's January 16th today, 2025. You're going to meet back in 1 year. You're going to have a friendly competition. You're going to meet back in 1 year. So who's done the best job with your fitness, right? Now you exercise 3 days a week, combination of strength training and cardio. You eat healthy. Nobody's perfect, but at least 80% or better, right? You get your sleep, you supplement intelligently, and you have a fitness mindset. Nothing crazy, but you do the best you can, and you're consistent for that year. Now, so you have a twin, and they start off on the same path, but miss a workout here and there, skip a meal here and there, eat some extra junk here and there, doesn't get all the sleep required here and there. Now, at the end of a year, who's going to have the best results? Think about it. Well, be the consistent self, your consistent self. That's right, right? So the power of consistency, that's what's going to get you getting started. It's important to get started and get going. The consistency is what's going to ultimately get you to transform your body. You must be consistent. You must get started and you must be consistent. All right. Now, let's look at nutrition. Imagine for a moment that we want to build a beautiful 2-story house. And imagine that we only have half the supplies necessary to build the house. How far are we going to get? Maybe halfway, right? The foods that you and I eat on a daily basis, the foods that we eat are the supplies that goes towards building our body. Like the supplies going towards building the house. So I encourage you to consider having a whole food, mostly, or if not all, whole food, plant-based diet composed of about 50% fruits and vegetables. Half your diet, fruits and vegetables. And then the other half, whole grains and proteins like legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and protein powders. And there's all kind of good stuff you can do to get all your protein needs, all your nutritional needs. So consider that. And then for more information on this, I just, please don't wait too long. I just had a call or a communication yesterday with a person that I reached out to him before the holidays. The person was about 240 pounds and, wanted to get down to about 180 pounds, wanted to be healthy around for their family and their kids, but they were too busy to get started. And then I told him, he said, follow up with me after the holidays. I don't want to do it right now. So I followed up with him after the holidays, and the person had a heart attack and a double bypass surgery, and now in cardiac rehab in his 50s. And so I encourage you, don't go down this path. One of my mentors, who's passed away now, lived well into his 80s, he said that discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons. Think about this. The disciplines of fitness, your training, your nutrition, your recovery, your supplementation, your mindset, the disciplines, the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, decades of fitness, that weighs ounces. Ounces, they weigh ounces. This person didn't want to do cardio. I don't know why they hated cardio so much. But that discipline of cardio, I promise you, weighs ounces compared to the pain and the regret and the suffering of having a heart attack and bypass surgery and being laid up in the hospital, cardiac rehab in your 50s. Let's wake up. Let's wake up, folks. Come on, take action. You know what it's time to do. I encourage you to take action with your fitness. So what do we do so far in today's lesson? We set a clear, specific goal. We're breaking down the 5 simple steps: training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. And we're just wrapping up. We're just wrapping up training. We talked about the 5 principles of training: proper form, variety, intensity, proper training principles, and consistency. Now we're talking about nutrition, how the foods that we eat on a daily basis are like the supplies that build our body. So we want to have healthy supplies, 50% of which are fruits and vegetables, 25% whole grains, and 25% proteins like legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds. And to dig deeper into this, research if you're curious. And I encourage you to go at nutrition and studying fitness. I encourage you to go at it with a childlike enthusiasm. The enthusiasm of a child. Have a childish enthusiasm about fitness and nutrition. Be curious. Ask questions. Why is it this way? With all this health talk, I was just listening to a podcast this morning, I think it was, and they were saying, why do some companies, like in the United States, like our cereal companies in the United States, they sell cereals to the families, to the kids, and they have certain products in the cereals like red dye that in other countries they made laws against people putting red dye and things like that in this. So they don't, when they sell it to their country, they sell it without the harmful chemicals. We got to wake up, folks. Are you feeding your kids chemicals? Right? So that's one thing they said. It's going to take, but they just did make a law in the United States where they can't do that here either. Just some of the companies are so brutal. And their reasoning was, we're just doing what is the law. were just following the law, but they were not putting the customer or the people first. They were just going off. We're just doing what the law said. It said we could put those red dye products in there, so we just did it. Well, we got to do better than that. So I encourage you. They're coming off the shelves, thank goodness, but it won't be for a year or two that they have to have them off the shelves. So look out for colored dyes in your foods. But anyway, these are the kind of things we got to stay away from. I don't even know how I got off on that. So we're talking about nutrition, right? I encourage you to have healthy nutrition. 50% fruits and vegetables, 25% whole grains, 25% plant-based proteins like legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds. And to dig deeper into nutrition, if you want to learn more, I encourage you to watch The Game Changers, THE Game Changers. It's on Netflix and YouTube, and it's very helpful, and it'll get you caught up on some of the reasonings behind why I'm encouraging you to have a whole food plant-based diet. So we talked about training, nutrition. Let's look at recovery. Over the last several years, I've trained 3 different neurologists. One, I'm currently training a neuroradiologist. And we have great discussions about sleep studies and brain health, and very fascinating. And all their studies show 7.5 to 9 hours sleep a night is what's recommended for us humans. I've heard different things. I don't get into debates with people about it. I'm just sharing with you what I have learned. I feel that's a good amount. That's what I'm shooting for, and I encourage my clients to consider it at least, and my friends. So I encourage you to consider 7.5 to 9 hours sleep a night. If you have reasoning otherwise, I encourage you to just dig deep and do your own research. But getting full recovery is very important to keep our inflammation down. It's important to boost our immune system. It's important to build muscle. Sleep is very, very, very important. So I encourage you to optimize your recovery. There's all kind of other fun things, like I'm just getting into red light therapy, and just there's a lot of stuff that we can do to get that full recovery. But I'm encouraging you to start with the basics, is a good night's sleep. So what helps a good night's sleep? Having a clear conscience and a tired body. So that's why exercise is really good. So I encourage you to exercise like in the morning or in the midday, and then try to get a good night's sleep at night. So get that full recovery and see how you feel. So I want you to have a strong immune system. I want you to have a strong immunity and be full health, full energy, right? Transform your body, that recovery. Now, we talked about training, nutrition, recovery. Let's look at supplementation. There are basically 2 different types of supplementation, I feel. There's nutritional supplementation and enhancement supplementation, right? So for example, on enhancement supplementation would be, nutritional supplementation would be like protein shakes, and I love them. I have them regularly. I'm a big fan of protein shakes. Then also too on an enhancement. So we have nutritional supplements and enhancement supplements. Nutritional supplements are like the protein shakes. Enhancement supplements is like creatine, stuff like that. That's going to enhance strength, but not do anything with nutrition. Does that make sense? So, but they do help. The supplement industry is a huge industry, and I feel you can waste a lot of money, right? I encourage you to be specific about your goals with supplements, figure out what you want and get what you want. But I encourage you to stick with the basics, and the basics with fitness are exercise or training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and now we just talked about. And last but not least is mindset, right? Let's talk about the power of mindset. Your mindset, our mindset when it comes to fitness. Very, 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 very important. So that's why in the beginning of this video, if you're jumping in late, we did our goals at the very, very beginning. So I'm going to do it again right now. I'm going to frame up the mindset. We're going to wrap this thing up with a mindset talk here. So have a clear, specific goal. That's a big part of mindset with your fitness. Have a clear, specific goal. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set up an affirmation / prayer. Here it goes. I'll use me as an example. My goal is to be at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat. How I set up my affirmation / prayer is I am happy and grateful now that I am at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat. See how that is? That's clear and specific. Now I want you to do it. I am happy and grateful now that I am at percent body fat. Maybe like a pounds or kilograms, wherever you're at, and then body fat percent. You can be a clothes size. It's just giving you a framework, right? And then as you're doing this, I encourage you to do this every day. I am happy and grateful now that I am. As I go to the studio in the mornings, my training studio that I work out of, I go and I say, I'm happy and grateful now that I am at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat, feeling strong and healthy like a supple leopard, thick brown hair, 20/20 vision, perfect teeth, supple skin. See how I go on? And these are other goals, but they're within the fitness realm. Does that make sense? So I encourage you to do the same thing. Be clear and specific, right? Clear and specific. All right. Well, I'm here to help you in any way. My goal is to come at you on these channels every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember that our health is wealth. And be blessed. All right. Bye for now.